The boss jock has entered the building. You are listening to the Sportcat Show.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. You have the one, the only Sportcat. I'm here with you for the next 2 hours on Radio X Australia, Dare Media Talk Radio in Australia, Yerg's Radio Network, which includes Forward Talk, Right Talk. I think there's some other Yerg's Radio, Mastiff Media. I'm sorry, Ross. You've got so many, I lose track. Let's see who's in the chat. If you want to come over and join our chat, we have a great chat. We have Wendell in the chat. Hello, Wendell. We have Brenda. Hello, Brenda. Welcome to the chat. Come over and find us on YouTube. Para R Normal. 3 different words. Para R Normal. And then Guys with a Z. Or you can just search out the Sportcat shows and find me that way. And today we're going to we have some breaking news today. Let's get into it. Hold on here. Let me share my screen and we will go over. We have some breaking news that's basically just started right before the show came on. So let's see what we got over here. There we go. Let's see real quick. The current time. Sydney, it's 3:03 a.m. Good morning, Sydney. Brisbane, it's 3:03. Perth, it's 1:03 a.m. Goodness gracious. I'm on the overnight hour in Australia. Good morning to all of our friends in Australia. Let's see what we got down here. We're going to jump ahead a little bit here because with breaking news, Hulk Hogan has passed away at the age of 71. So we talked about this yesterday. They go in threes. We had the actor from The Cosby Show. Then we had Ozzy yesterday, or the day before yesterday, and then Hulk Hogan at 71. This comes to us from TMZ. Wrestling legend Hulk Hogan has died at age 71. TMZ Sports has learned. Medics were dispatched to the WWE Icon's Clearwater home early Thursday morning, with operators stating it was regarding a, quote, cardiac arrest. We're told a slew of police cars and EMTs were parked outside Hogan's home. He was carried on a stretcher into an ambulance. Cops tell us officials responded to the call at 9:51 a.m. local time, and he was treated by Clearwater Fire and Rescue before being taken to a nearby hospital where he was pronounced dead. PD said they will provide additional information at a press conference later today. Just a few weeks ago, Hogan's wife denied rumors he was in a coma, stating his heart was strong as he recovered from the surgeries. TMZ broke the story last month. There were rumblings Hogan was on his, quote, deathbed, but we were told at the time he was just dealing with the symptoms of a neck procedure he underwent in May. Hulk transformed professional wrestling into a family entertainment sport. Before wrestling catered to a fairly narrow audience, Hulk's theatrics in the ring was magnetic for children and their parents, and it supercharged the sport. Hogan kickstarted the popular cultural phenomenon Hulkamania. I think, man, I remember that. That was great.
I'm Hulk Hogan, the greatest wrestler of all time.
Yes, he was. Him and his little Hulkamaniacs. After defeating the Iron Sheik for the World Heavyweight Championship in 1984, a craze that never went away, and his signature bandana and handlebar mustache were often copied by fans in the crowd for decades. 1996, he transformed himself from hero to a villain by creating the NWO, or the New World Order. He became Hollywood Hulk Hogan. It propelled him in his professional wrestling career even more and towards fame. He had countless iconic performances, including a matchup against Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson at WrestleMania X8, 28, I guess, in 2002, and face off with Andre the Giant. Boy, it was a big guy at WrestleMania 3, and had many memorable feuds with the Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage. Man, those are some old names in wrestling. Hulk was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005. He was removed in 2015 after a scandal erupted about racist comments while he was being secretly recorded during a sexual encounter. Gawker posted the clip, and Hulk subsequently, good Lord, sued, winning the lawsuit. He was inducted a second time into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2020, this time as a member of the NWO. Hulk was the star of the 2024 wrestling convention. Well, it could have been that. He's the 2024 star of the Republican National Convention when he set the room ablaze with theatrics. Hulk had an amazing, successful movie career, beginning in '82 with Rocky III, playing the iconic character Thunder Lips. Starred in No Holds Barred, Suburban Commando, and Mr. Nanny. And there's more. He starred in the VH1 reality TV Hogan Knows Best with his family Linda, Nick, and Brooke. What's amazing about the Hulk is he had scores of surgery as a result of wrestling injuries. He told Harvey during a taping of Objectified he had no original body parts left. The last time we spoke with Hulk was in May after he was launching the Real American Freestyle and Amateur Wrestling League. The first event is August 30th on Fox Nation. He also started a beer company, didn't he? So Hulk Hogan, age 71, has passed away after a cardiac arrest, according to TMZ. And let's see, what do we got here? Hello, Chris. Welcome to the chat. And Brenda says, yeah, he was just in Texas. Harley's in the chat. Welcome, Harley. Yeah, he was just in Texas last week. He was a good guy. Well, you say he was not a good guy. I think he was a good guy. Let's see. Expected Ric Flair to go first. Wendell, I was thinking about that. I just had this conversation with Mrs. Sportcat. Should it be the mustache, goatee, or full beard? I don't know. Let me put it out to a public vote on the internet. But yes, Hulk Hogan, 71, passed away. May he rest in peace. I'm not sure why Harley says he was not a good guy, but I always thought he was a good guy, but I guess it's subjective. No, well, maybe, but now there has to be a break. I don't know what you're talking about, Brenda, but okay. All right. So we will jump into our normal thing that we do every day. We do a little history lesson at the beginning of the show, and then we'll go back to some news. Let's see. We'll start in 1534. French explorer Jacques Cartier claims for France the islands of Gaspé, erecting a 30-foot cross at Point Penule. Let's see. 1567, Mary, Queen of Scots, is forced to abdicate. Her one-year-old son becomes king. King James VI of Scotland. Let's skip ahead to a little bit more recent times. 1911, American explorer Hiram Bingham rediscovers Machu Picchu, the lost city of the Incas. 1943, Operation Gomorrah, the Royal Air Force begins bombing Hamburg. I apologize to everybody. Creating a firestorm and killing 42,600 people. 2019, global warming is the fastest in 2,000 years, and scientific consensus that humans are the cause is at 99%, according to 3 major reports by the Journals of Nature and Nature Geoscience. We're actually going to have a news article talking a little about that today. 1952, American Western film High Noon is released, directed by Fred Zinnerman, starring Gary Cooper, Grace Kelly, and Thomas Mitchell. Wow. 1982, this is timely. Eye of the Tiger by Survivor was released for the Rocky III soundtrack. Starts a 6-week run at number 1 on the U.S. charts and was a Grammy for Best Rock Performance. 2022, songwriter icon Joni Mitchell makes a surprise concert appearance, joining Brandy Carlisle at Newport Folk Festival in Mitchell's public performance. That was first public performance in 19 years. 2005, 92nd Tour de France. No winner, Lance Armstrong retires after winning a record seventh consecutive victory, but is disqualified for doping in 2012. Jump over to this one because sometimes you get a little bit of different news. Uh, Wendell says he drinks before the show. I wish. No, it's just me tripping over my own tongue. 1847, Mormon settlers arrive in Salt Lake Valley. 148 Mormon pioneers led by Brigham Young arrive in Utah's Great Salt Lake Valley. The pioneers had set out more than a year earlier, hoping to establish a settlement after the assassination of their leader, Joseph Smith, in Illinois. Young declared the Great Salt Lake Valley was the, quote, place, and Mormons celebrate July 24th as Pioneer Day. Okay, and we talked about that. In 1933, Buck and Blanche Barrow are arrested in Iowa. They are accomplices of Bonnie and Clyde. Buck was Clyde's brother, and Blanche accompanied the infamous duo on their 1930s crime spree. Though Blanche survived their arrest, Buck later succumbed to his injuries. Yeah, that is kind of a sad coincidence. Eye of the Tiger on Today. Yeah. What is it they say about I don't remember. I was gonna something about there are no coincidences or something like that. We talked about this last night. Okay, so what is today? Well, today's holidays. It's National Cousins Day. Well, happy National Cousins Day to all of my cousins out there. National Tequila Day. Not a real fan of tequila. It's Amelia Earhart Day. Children's Day in Vanuatu. International Self-Care Day. Give yourself a hug, Wendell. You deserve it. National Day of Motoring. It's National Drive-Thru Day. National Marine Week. National Refreshment Day. What's your favorite refreshment? National Thermal Engineering Day. Pioneer Day. Samaritan's Awareness Day. Simon Bolivier's birthday. And Tell an Old Joke Day. Well, make dads happy, right? Tell old dad's joke. Wow. 1979 Alien was premiered. Or is that recently? I don't know. So, yeah. I didn't like that movie. Let's see. We'll jump over here. And we'll discuss if there's anything different. National Refreshment Day, and it shows beer. National Drive-Thru Day. National Cousins Day. So we pretty much talked about these. National Intern Day, celebrated by the Clintons. That'll get me kicked off of Yerg's Radio. James Gunn blames, quote, anti-American sentiment for Superman's international box office. Is James Gunn's Superman struggling internationally because everyone hates America? Well, that's what James Gunn thinks, or at least is the narrative he's currently pushing. In a recent interview with Rolling Stone, his second in just over a month, in which he talks about the reaction to Superman and the future of his DC universe, the interviewer asked him about the film's foreign box office, which is not very good and lagging behind strong domestic take. After saying the international numbers are growing and agreeing with the interviewer that some places just don't know who Superman is. Yeah, I don't know if that's true. Gunn declares anti-American sentiment as one of the main reasons for the disappointing numbers. His quote is, Superman is a not known commodity in some places. He is not big known superhero in some places like Batman. That affects things. And it also affects things that we have a certain amount of, quote, anti-American sentiment around the world right now. It isn't really helping us. So I think it's just a matter of letting something grow. But again, for us, everything's been a total win. Having a movie come out and be something that has been embraced by many people everywhere, this is just the seed of the tree that Peter and I have been watering for the past 3 years. So to be able to have it start off positively has been incredibly overwhelming. And, well, remember when James Gunn said that Superman was political? Think about it. That was about immigration that would play differently in the red and blue states, that anyone who didn't like it hated kindness before ending with, but screw them. Then remember how he backtracked on that and said his Superman was for everyone while his brother insulted half the country. And Nathan Fillion mocked them. Well, the movie came out and it wasn't political. Certain aspects can be interpreted that way, but there are some general ideas that then representative of a particular conflict. And it wasn't even about immigration, making one wonder why Gunn brought it up in the first place. And now here he is again claiming Superman isn't doing well internationally because people are pissed off at America right now, which is a thinly veiled swipe at President Trump and his supporters. Of course, Gunn is in a much safer position now that Superman has passed its second week and made a lot of money domestically. He can insult anyone he wants stateside without worrying about it, and that'll affect the box office too much. Anyone who wants to, yeah, well, nice of him. I assumed then that there would be a cover story in case Superman bombed, so he could blame the people he hates and make them look crazy for seeing politics where there weren't none. Now he's free to blame them to Glenn. Well, good for him. Yeah, this author goes on to say, yeah, James Gunn is a dick. This is the author from Geeks and Gamers saying that, not me. He's smug, dismissive, and he seems to hate the fans of whatever property he attaches himself to, which means he's just like everyone else in Hollywood unless you heap unending adulterated praise on his work. He's happy to insult you, and God forbid, don't share his politics. What makes this swipe at America under Trump even worse is how he removed as much American from Superman as possible. Superman never says truth, justice, and the American way. And although I'm glad Gunn didn't force it in one of those obnoxious alternatives, I don't think its exclusion is an accident. It's also granting that he and Peter Safran used that phrase to get people excited for Superman before omitting it from the film. There are no other patriotic symbols, at least as far as I can remember. No American flags or anything like that. While these things don't lessen the movie, he's blaming America for disappointing at the international box office after minimizing the American aspects of the characters as much as possible. It's like he's telling foreign country, look, guys, I hate it here too, and I did my best with this movie. As with earlier comments, this isn't something in the film so much as something the film now reflects because of how close James Gunn spoke about it. It's mystifying to me how artists can do their own work, but then I guess that was his mentality, is often referred to as derangement syndrome. This comes to us from Geeks and Gamers in an article that came out yesterday afternoon about the Superman movie. Let's catch up in the chat here. And yes, Chris, I agree with Brenda. There is no coincidences. And Brenda wants to know, why is there a holiday for every day now? Well, I guess it's always been that way. We just didn't know it. Yeah. Brendel says, Brendel. Hey, Wendell, I've matched you up. You don't like it here. Go try and live somewhere else. Well, if you go to Russia right now, you get recruited into the military. She says she just got her coffee. It wasn't your cigar, Glenn. Jurg should take it up with Bill if he has an issue. That would be a nasty cigar. Hey, speaking of sex acts, July 23rd, yesterday afternoon, this came out. A married couple is facing felony charges after joining the Mile High Club on a JetBlue flight Saturday morning, according to police. Trista Riley and her husband, Christopher Arnold, were traveling to Sarasota, Florida from JFK International. And, well, they allegedly engaged in lewd and lascivious exhibition, according to a probable cause affidavit. A flight attendant told cops that several youths and their mother had witnessed Riley and Arnold performing in sexual activity on board Jet Flight Blue 163 JFK to SRQ. When Brian Zepp, the JetBlue flight attendant, walked to Mrs. Riley's seating area in the 25th row, he witnessed her making up and down movements with her head while she was face down in Mr. Arnold's lap. Cops note that further investigation indicated that Mrs. Riley was seen by two underage youths performing, quote, oral sex and jerking off Mr. Arnold. In a witness statement, a female passenger who was flying with her two children said that during takeoff, she spotted a woman later identified as Riley, quote, jerking off her male companion. She noticed that my two kids was watching them and they didn't stop. After that, she was just laying on him like she was doing oral sex. Riley, a medical receptionist, and Arnold, a general contractor, were arrested on 19 July when arriving in Sarasota. The duo, who live in Danbury, Connecticut, were booked into county jail, from which they were freed Monday. Prosecutors agreed the couple's release on their own recognizance while they investigate jurisdiction, a court order states. Oh, there's a picture of them above, and according to them, they do not have any criminal record, and they were not, no. Arnold was convicted of pot possession in 2004 and was arrested earlier this year in Connecticut for assault and disorderly conduct. Well, apparently she wasn't too disorderly on that flight. Chris says, or Brenda says she's so proud of them. Well, she didn't get none. He did, but that's another story. So, all right, you're going to hear this term. You probably even hear it in my news report today. Heat dome. And while the heat dome is a serious thing, the corn sweat to blame for Nebraska's dangerous heat wave. Is it to blame for the Nebraska dangerous heat wave? Well, this comes to us from KETV 7, which is an ABC station, by Beth Carlson, Missouri Valley, Iowa. Does the viral term corn sweat have anything to do with the extreme temperatures in southwest Iowa? Well, KETV asked Iowa State climatologist Justin Glissine. Corn gets the name corn sweats because it puts out a lot of water vapor, he said. That's where we get the exceedingly high dew points in this oppressive heat, not because of corn, but because corn in vegetation in general adds a few points to the dew point. The water vapor emissions can increase the dew point, adding to the humidity and the heat index we feel during the extreme heat. Now, given that 13 million acres of corn is across Iowa, that is dominant evapotranspiration process that we see. But the concept corn sweat isn't new to farmer, even if the term is. We've had corn plants and bean plants around in the ground before we had corn sweat, corn farmer Kyle Jensen said. If we have humidity, it might be harder on us, but it's easier on the crops. Nebraska and southwest Iowa may notice significantly more heat and humidity this year, regardless of the corn sweat. The last 4 to 5 years, we've seen widespread drought across the United States. So if you get moisture off the Gulf over dry land, it's extracted as it moves north, so we don't see the high dew points. In fact, if we were to go back to this date in 2024, 2023, and 2022, you would see dew points in the low to mid 60s. So we're seeing dew point numbers now in the 70s and 80 underneath the heat dome, he said. In short, drought conditions are easing up the area as we see more rain, but with rain comes humidity. Around average temperatures are also a factor, meaning the culprit of the dangerous temperatures isn't the corn. So there you go. You're going to hear this from some people. I've already seen some conspiracy theorists going on about it. The heat dome is because of the weather, and the dew point is only raised slightly by the crops, but the corn does not cause the heat dome that we're having in America at the moment. So everybody calm down, just remain calm. And we shouldn't have to be talking about this, but 3 officers were shot in ambush while parked eating lunch. They were ambushed. The suspect is luckily dead. Lorain, Ohio. This comes to us from WLWT 5 TV, which is NBC. Emily Sanderson. 3 police officers were shot in what police are calling an ambush situation in northeast Ohio City. According to Elira police, it happened around 1 p.m. in Lorain, Ohio, which is 30 miles west of Cleveland. Acting Police Chief Michael Failing said 2 officers were parked in the cruiser eating lunch when they were shot. A 3rd officer who responded to the scene was also shot. The suspect had parked at the dead end of Missouri Avenue, and he had an arsenal of weapons with him. He was laying in wait and opened fire with multiple rounds at both of the officers who were sitting in their vehicle. 3 Lorain police officers were injured in the incident. The 2 officers most seriously injured, Officer Brent Payne and Officer Philip Wagner, were life flighted to Metro Health Medical Center in Cleveland. The 3rd officer, Peter Gale, was wounded in the hand. The suspect was also shot and pronounced dead at the scene. Hey, congratulations, good shot. The Lorain County Coroner's Office has identified the suspect as Michael Parker, 28, of Lorain. Authorities have not yet confirmed whether the suspect died from self-inflicted wounds or as a result of police gunfire. The incident prompted a huge response from multiple agencies in the area, and they had helicopters like crazy in the air because they believed that there was more than one person. We stand in unwavering support of the brave men and women with the Lorain Police Department. Our thoughts and prayers are with the officers, their family, and the entire community during this difficult time. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine shared a statement after the shooting Wednesday offering his support for the victims and their families. I've been briefed on the horrible officer-involved shooting in Lorain, which appears to have been targeted attack on law enforcement. Fran and I, the governor, are praying for 3 Lorain police officers who were shot in line of duty, and our thoughts are also with their families, friends, and fellow police officers in Ohio. The situation reminds us that those who work in law enforcement risk their lives every day for the safety of their communities. We are so grateful for the men and women who willingly and bravely serve and protect. So our thoughts and prayers go out to them, and we hope that they get well soon. This is the article about the murderer that killed the firefighters. And apparently, this comes to us from military.com. Apparently, the man who killed the Idaho firefighters had been turned away by the Army. The man accused of fatally shooting 2 Idaho firefighters before killing himself last month had tried to join the fire department and became angry when told he would need to go through training and testing. What do you think? You just grab a hose? Come on. Wes Rowley also tried to join the Army twice. His father was an Army veteran, but was disqualified after failing to follow through on tasks and appointments. The sheriff, Bob Norris, said at a press conference. The new revelations offer a more complete picture of the 20-year-old's resentments. Officers also presented evidence suggesting the attack was premeditated. A goodbye letter to his father they found in his truck, and drawings in his home that appear to show a mountain parking lot with a shotgun being fired and a person aiming a rifle at his chin. Tomorrow I shall go to battle, he wrote to his father. If I survive, it would be with the utmost dishonor. I bid these farewell. Next to his signature were 2 symbols that appear to be runes linked to Nazi ideology. Okay, don't get carried away there. The runes are not Nazi. Rowley used gas, lighters, and flint to start a series of fire at the Canfield Mountain on 29 June to instigate a response, then shot at firefighters who asked him to move his vehicle. Norris said he shot at others from trees before dying before a self-inflicted gunshot wound. It was an act of pure evil that was premeditated ambush and a pure act of evil against the people who look to the city for help. The Fire and Rescue Battalion Chief Frank Harwood, 42, Fire Department Battalion Chief John Morrison, 52, David Tisdall, 47, was hospitalized in critical condition. Investigators hope to learn more from his social media accounts, but it's clear that his frustrations were growing over time, the sheriff said. He tried to become a soldier in 2023 and again last year in Hayden, Idaho, but failed to follow through on tasks and appointments, eventually being disqualified by the Army. Then 1 month before the shooting, he went to the fire department asking about becoming a firefighter. He said he had the state of mind that he would be able to start that day. He was told, no, there's a process. You have a written exam, a physical agility, a background check, an oral interview. And then, he became agitated and he left the area. And former classmates recall him as a aggressive individual. And the interviews with the family and court records reveal a troubled early home life and disconnected from schoolmates who saw him as aggressive. He used to draw bombs and firearms in school. Well, he said he lived with his mom in Phoenix, Arizona, before moving to northern Idaho, to live with his father, Jason, in 2024. He went to elementary, middle school, and high with Dieter Denon, who went to elementary, middle, and high with him, said that his aggression and racist comments made classmates uncomfortable. He was really on edge a lot. He would say unkind or rude things to people of different races, culture, or religion. He said you'd kind of go, what the heck? Why would you say that? It's a little messed up to say that. He got into trouble for drawing swastikas in school and also liked to draw bombs and planes and military things. He also bragged about his time in Germany. He would always tell me, I'm a lot more German than in every way compared to you. So he couldn't believe it when a friend texted him in the article about the shooting. It was shocking. Well, they were younger, but it's hard to think anyone could ever do something like that. Mother got a protection of order against his father, according to court records. Heather and Jason Rowley were married in San Bernardino in 2008. Jason Rowley served from 2007 to 2015, including 2 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan, and left the service as a staff sergeant, according to the Army. The family lived in Germany, home to a large U.S. Army base, from 2010 to 2015, when Wes Rowley was 5 to 10. Records show his mother filed for divorce after they moved to Phoenix and sought a protection order saying Jason posed a threat to her and her son. Her petition said he was an alcoholic and had been arrested for assaulting her on October 1st, 2015. He was very intoxicated, she wrote. He was crying inconsolably, saying he was going to commit suicide. Things escalated. He punched several holes in the walls, destroyed my cell phone, and pushed me to the ground. He texted her after his arrest saying that he was going to kill himself, she wrote. He verbally threatened me by saying he would be waiting outside with a sniper rifle and burn the place down, she wrote. He said the only thing stopping him from going through with it was going to prison. They did not deserve this. The judge ordered him to stay away from his wife and son and surrender any firearms. I'm not a danger to my son or anyone else, he responded. But he did not tell the truth in the statement. The judge apparently believed her after the hearing. His order cited an act of domestic violence, said he might do it again. The protection would continue for his mother, but not the minor child. 3 years later, Jason applied for a marriage license with Sarah Peterson, according to social media, their account, and live in Priest River, Idaho, near Sandpoint, where Wes Rowley had been living before he became homeless. And they tried to contact them, but they go without being reached. So, yeah. Wendell, why did you leave me, Wendell? Yes, Chris, you are correct. The last 2 stories do show mental health as an issue that needs to be addressed first and foremost in this country. Agreed. And you wonder how much of this could have been prevented if there was some good mental health that helped them out. All right, we're going to go to Ozzy's story for a little bit because it's got some updates. I'm not going to get real crazy with these updates because there's going to be a lot of information coming out, but we're going to give what we have. According to reports, an air ambulance was dispatched to a critical care incident at Ozzy's UK residence shortly before his death on Tuesday. The Thames Valley Air Ambulance confirmed they dispatched a chopper at 10:30 a.m. local to the Shalfront St. Giles, Buckinghamshire, where he and his family lived. Medics spent at least 2 hours at the scene providing advanced critical care before they took off at 12:30. And his death has not been referred to the county coroner, according to the Telegraph. He died weeks after performing a massive farewell show in Birmingham. He had been diagnosed with Parkinson's, and his sister Jean shared details of her final moments with the rock star. It was upsetting because he could not stand upright, but he was still our John, that's his legal name, still cracking the jokes. His final Instagram post, back to the beginning, the final show, which now stands as a quiet tribute to the heavy metal icon's legacy. And let's see. They talk about how they were met in 1970 after her father, Don Arden, was managing Black Sabbath. They got married in 82 following his divorce from his first wife, Thelma Riley. And let's see, these are people paying tribute to him. They met because of that. No official funeral date has been announced for Ozzy. Multiple reports state that his family is planning a both major public celebration in Birmingham, his home city, to honor his legacy as a music icon, and a private funeral for close family and friends, but no details have been released. He did request a song to be performed at his funeral. In 2011, he made comments to the Sunday Times that he wanted this funeral to be arranged. While the Osbourne family has so far not revealed any details about his memorial service, Osbourne himself previously said he didn't want his funeral to be sad, but instead it hoped it would be a way to say thanks. There will be no harping on bad times, Osbourne wrote. It's worth remembering that a lot of people see nothing but misery their whole lives. So by any measure, most of us in this country, especially rock stars like me, are very lucky. That's why I don't want my funeral to be sad. I want it to be time to say thanks. In that interview, Osbourne said he had no preference on which songs would be played at the funeral. I honestly don't care what they play at my funeral. They can put on a medley of Justin Bieber, Susan Boyles, and We Are the Diddy Man if it makes him happy, he said at the time. Later, however, Osbourne disclosed that he'd like a, quote, day in the life to be played by the Beatles. That's fascinating. That's fascinating. Yes, it does seem sad, Brenda. All right, so that was from Newsweek. Let's see what else news we got here. This came to us from MSN. Yeah, I don't like to use them, but they do occasionally hit the head on the nail. Illinois firefighter rescue an escaped train. Hold on. Illinois firefighters rescue escaped snake on a train. Firefighters in a Chicago suburb were called to a commuter train to help capture a ball python that got loose from its owners and slithered out of control into a control box. The Oak Park Fire Department said in a Facebook post, firefighters responded to a CTA Green Line train at the Harlem stop on a call for, quote, assistance in securing a pet ball python snake. The snake named Lucius had slithered away from his owner and made its way into a control box aboard the train. We were able to open the box, secure the snake, and return Lucius to its appreciative pirate, his owner, the post said. Not a typical rescue, but a memorable for one for sure. And it shows pictures of the firefighters rescuing the pet snake. Why do you take your pet snake on a train? I'm asking for a friend. Why do you take your pet snake on a train? I don't know. I watched On Patrol last week, and there was a guy that was driving around the neighborhoods and city streets with his snake wrapped around his neck. Got to say, I never saw that in my years in a car wreck, but I did have a house fire where there was a large lizard that wanted out of the house as bad as anybody there. And I closed the door and said, not today, Satan. But it was later rescued, so it was not injured. It was alive and healthy. Okay, so this comes to us from the Daily Mail. Shock as a woman who vanished in Death Valley is found alive 9 months later. A woman who mysteriously vanished in California's sweltering Death Valley has miraculously been found alive 9 months after she disappeared. Kelsey Pittman, 33 from North Carolina, was discovered safe in Colorado, authorities announced on Tuesday, without providing further details. She was first reported missing by her families after she stopped communicating with them in November of 24, according to the Inyo County Sheriff's Office. On February 9th, 2025, they received a tip about a suspicious vehicle abandoned near an area frequented by campers known as the Pads or Slab City, just off Highway 190. Police who responded to the scene found Pittman's 2009 Chevrolet HHR, but she was nowhere to be found. This led to an initiation of an extensive missing person investigation and search effort, according to the sheriff, noting that coordinated with several law enforcement agents and employed drones, cadaver dogs, and volunteers in an effort. Despite exhaustive ground and aerial searches, no additional physical evidence was found at the site, according to the sheriff's office, but they declined to provide additional information. So, out of respect and privacy for her and her family, no further details will be released. She had last been seen in November of 2024 while making contact with law enforcement in Utah. She was known to visit Las Vegas. Her mother had stayed in contact with investigators, even visiting the area to help in the search. She's found alive and well in Colorado after disappearing in Death Valley. What do you think, guys and gals? Think she was taken in by Bigfoot or aliens? So, what mysteries will be unveiled by that? What conspiracy theorists will have to say about that? I'll have to watch the headlines. All right. Donald Trump shoots down claims about Elon Musk with a 4-word dismissal. Well, the president has had a bitter feud with the tech CEO for months after falling out over the, quote, big, beautiful bill. This comes to us from the Daily Express US by Cheyenne Ubery. Donald Trump shot down claims that he would destroy Elon with just 4 words. The president took to Truth Social on Thursday to react to claims that he would take away subsidies to the Tesla CEO. The Tesla CEO subsidies the Tesla CEO receives from the government. This is not so, is what he wrote in bold letters. Trump said, I want Elon and all businesses within our country to thrive. In fact, thrive like never before. The better they do, the better the USA does, and that's good for all of us. We are setting records every day, and I want to keep it that way. The president comes in a post just a day after the White House press secretary Carolyn Leavitt said she doesn't think Trump supports federal agencies using Musk's AI. When asked if Trump would want to cancel a recently announced contract with the company, Leavitt said that she would talk to him about him. XAI got a $200 million contract with the Department of Defense alongside Anthropic, Google, and OpenAI last week. The company unveiled several products for the U.S. government, calling it Grok for Government. However, the president has threatened to cancel federal contracts with Musk businesses, saying in June, the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions, is to terminate Elon's government subsidies and contracts. We'll be bringing you the very latest updates, pictures, and videos as this breaking news story continues. Of course, he's not going to. He's a fellow billionaire with the president. They're going to take care of each other. Come on, everybody knows that. The elite take care of the elite, right? Isn't that the way it works? They don't look out for us. This comes to us from the AP. The man accused of attempting to assassinate President Trump returns to court in hopes to represent himself. Fort Pierce, Florida. Why is it always Florida? Good Lord. A man charged with attempting to assassinate President Donald Trump last year's Florida golf course will return to court Thursday to once again explain why he wants to fire his court-appointed lawyers and represent himself. This man is nuts. Ryan Ralph previously made the request earlier this month during a hearing in Fort Pierce before U.S. District Court Judge Aileen Cannon. She did not rule during the hearing, but said she would issue a written order later. But now Ralph, 59, is set to be back in front of Cannon a day after his court-appointed federal protection defenders asked to be taken off the case. He's scheduled to stand trial in September, a year after prosecutors say a U.S. Secret Service agent thwarted his attempt to shoot President Trump as he played golf. He had pled not guilty to charges of attempting to assassinate a major presidential candidate, assaulting federal officers, and several firearms violations. The judge told Ralph earlier this month that she doesn't intend to delay the September 8th start date of his trial, even if she lets him represent himself. He has been described the extent of his education as 2 years of college after earning his GED. He understands that he can and would be ready. Good Lord. Said that the attorneys were him and his attorneys were a million miles apart, refusing to answer his question. He also suggested the same letter could be used as a prisoner exchange with Iran, China, North Korea, or Russia. I could die being of, hold on. I could die being of some use and save all this court a mess, but no one acts. Perhaps you have the power to trade me away after all, he wrote. On Wednesday, the Public Defender's Office filed a motion of termination to appointment of counsel, claiming that the attorney-client relationship is it's broken. You can't console it. It's broken. He refused to meet with them for a scheduled in-person meeting Tuesday at the Federal Detention Center. They both had 6 attempts to meet with him, and he did not. It's clear that he wishes to represent himself, and he is within his constitutional rights to make such a demand, the motion wrote. The U.S. Supreme Court has held that criminal defendants have a right to represent themselves in court proceedings as long as they show a judge they're competent to waive their right to defend an attorney. Prosecutors have said he methodically plotted to kill Trump for weeks before, aiming a rifle through shrubbery as Trump played golf on September 15th at his West Palm Beach Country Club. A Secret Service agent spotted him before he came into view. He allegedly aimed his rifle at the agent, who opened fire, causing him to drop his weapon and flee without firing a shot. Law enforcement obtained help from witnesses, who prosecutors said informed the officers that they saw a person fleeing. The witness was then flown in a police helicopter to a nearby interstate where he was arrested, and witnesses confirmed it was the person he had seen. Prosecutors said Roth has another unrelated hearing in Canaan's court scheduled for Friday on the admissibility of certain evidence and testimony that can be used for trial. In addition to the federal charges, he has also pled not guilty to state charges of terrorism and attempted murder. Well then, but what about the first guy? Where's the records on that guy? Where's the information on him? How come we don't have any information about that guy? President Trump says he's seen it, but nobody else has. Where is it? I'd like to know. I'd like to see it. Chris says nobody has seen records being set like this in human history. It's really remarkable. Yeah. Well. All right. This comes to us from KUAC TV9 FM 80.9. This is out of Alaska, connecting Alaska to the world. I don't know if it's ABC, NBC. I don't know what affiliate it is. But anyhow, NORAD tracks Russian aircraft over coastal waters near Alaska. 10 aircraft dispatched to intercept a Russian plane escorted them out of Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone. The North American Aerospace Defense Command says it detected and tracked Russian warplanes flying in international airspace Tuesday off the coast of Alaska. A NORAD spokesperson said the 2 Tu-95 bombers and 2 Su-35 fighters stayed in a section of international airspace called the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone. They did not enter U.S. nor Canadian airspace. Major Jennifer Derines said NORAD dispatched 2 Alaska-based F-16s and 4 F-35 fighter jets to positively identify, monitor, and intercept and escort them out of the Alaskan ID zone. She said in an email that NORAD jets were accompanied by support aircraft, including an E-3 AWAC, a command and control plane, and 3 KC-135 air tankers. She said the Russian aircraft were in the Alaskan ID zone for a little over 3 hours. A NORAD news release said Russian activity in the Alaska Air Defense ID zone occurs regularly and is not considered a threat. The last time NORAD reported Russian aircraft in the zone was in mid-April when 6 Russian warplanes were detected. They included 2 bombers, 2 fighters, and 2 reconnaissance plane and an AWACS-type aircraft. All right, well, we also know that if you monitor troop movements, they have been moving troops to the Alaskan border for some unknown reason. Wonder what that reason could be. And in these headlines, Coast Guard patrols Russian sea border to protect U.S. interests. Comes from us from Newsweek by Ryan Chan. United States Coast Guard vessel recently concluded a patrol in the Bering Sea, which lies between Alaska and Russia's Far East, protecting U.S. interests in the region. The 121-day patrol conducted by the national security cutter United States Coast Guard Monroe comes amid Russian continued presence near the Alaska border, including the deployment of aircraft that approach U.S. airspace on Wednesday, even as Moscow engages in war in Europe. Newsweek has contacted the Russian Defense and Foreign Ministries for comments. The Bering Sea serves as a gateway between the Arctic, a key geopolitical and military frontier between the West and Russia, along with China and the North Pacific. The Bering Strait is 50 miles wide and the narrowest point between America and Russia's mainland. The U.S. military has regularly operated near Alaska and Russia's easternmost border to help defend North America, including joint fighter aircraft missions with Canada over the Bering Strait and naval deployments in the North Pacific to support homeland defense. The Monroe returned to its home port in Alameda, California on July 16, following a 23,000-mile deployment patrolling the Bering Sea, the Coast Guard announced on Tuesday. The ship was deployed in mid-March to provide U.S. maritime presence in the Bering Sea, patrolling along the U.S. border, the boundary line which lies between Russia and the United States. So there you go. We are having more air and sea activity there. While operating in the Coast Guard's Arctic District, an area covering more than 47,300 miles of coastline across Alaska and the Arctic, the ship enforced domestic fishery regulations and promoted maritime governance in support with U.S. strategic interests in the North Pacific. The crew boarded fishing vessels 32 times to ensure compliance with U.S. law, preserve the integrity of fish stocks, encourage sustainable fishing practices, and maintain a level playing field within the U.S. exclusive economic zone, according to the Coast Guard. An exclusive economic zone extends up to 230 miles from the country's coastline, where the coastal nation has sovereign rights to explore, exploit, and conserve and manage natural resources, according to the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration law enforcement officer was aboard the vessel to enhance enforcement aimed at protecting the $6 billion Alaskan fishery. Okay, they just said something right there. Pay attention. A National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration law enforcement officer. NOAA, National Weather Service, has a law enforcement division. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Why does the National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration have a law enforcement division? U.S. Coast Guard said in a news release on Tuesday, the Coast Guard's effort helped secure Arctic waterways aimed to ensure American security, prosperity, and freedom in the face of the evolving Arctic security challenges and risk. U.S. Coast Guard Captain Jim O'Mara, the commanding officer of the Coast Guard Monroe, said in the news release, "Our job in the Bering Sea was to keep U.S. mariners safe, protect the economic integrity of the U.S. exclusive economic zone, and uphold border and control territory integrity of the U.S. Arctic." Well, okay. So now we have a separate vessel up there. And Chris says, didn't the last article say we were pissed because Russian planes were in our airspace, but we could send their ships to the border to protect our interests and safety? Seems like a double standard. That's how wars get started, Chris. That's how wars get started. The one in Ukraine, he didn't want certain big boom things and chemical things on his border, but other countries insisted on it, so he decided that that wasn't going to happen near his country, and so, well, there you go. It's good for me, but not for you. We don't want those big boom things in Cuba or Venezuela, and we'll protect ourselves for their not to be there, but it's okay for us to UN to do it to other countries. Yeah, bullshit. All right, so this article comes to us from the Daily Express, U.S. Mile deep monster volcano off the U.S. coast could erupt without warning at any moment. We talk about this frequently. The actual seamount, an underwater volcano located off the coast of Oregon, is on the verge of erupting. Experts have observed an uptick in seismic activity. An underwater volcano off the Oregon coast, known as the actual seamount, is showing signs of imminent eruptions, with experts noting increased seismic activity since January. If you want a whole bunch of fake news on this, go search out some of the prepper shows talking about this. Recording 100 to 300 tremors daily, the axial seamount activity indicates that magma is navigating its volcanic fissure. Situated 300 miles offshore and roughly a mile under the sea, the volcano poses no direct threat to humans, but remains under close observation. Remember that. It's no threat to us, no matter what these other fear-mongering channels say. William Wilcock, he takes pictures of the ocean, professor of the University of Washington, conveyed to us if this was a volcano in places where people lived, they would be evacuated. We think there will be some warning, but then volcanoes do tend to surprise us. So, in other words, it's ready to pop, but it's not going to hurt us. It's difficult and challenging to forecast timing and the nature of eruption. So, keep an eye on that. That's going to be a story in the near future. There's also stories going around on prepper channels talking about how there are earthquakes being triggered intentionally in Yellowstone to see what will happen if something does go off in Yellowstone, and that animals are evacuating in herds. Those videos are AI, and they are doing some seismic testing, but I don't think they're blowing up the area. We might. We've done stupider things. So it's top of the hour. It's 2:00 East Coast, and let's see. It's it's about to be. It's 2 minutes till 2:00 on the East Coast, 1:00 in Chicago, 12:00 in Denver, and 11:00 in Los Angeles. All right. Welcome, 9:58 a.m. in Anchorage, and to our Australian friends, it is 3:58 in the morning in Sydney and Brisbane. Perth, it's 1:58 a.m. Good morning, and I hope you're having a great day. All right, let's bring up what we normally do. And okay, well, apparently there's a police shooting in Morgan, Tennessee. We'll have to follow up on that tomorrow. This is what we normally do every day. The first hour we try and do about news, and then the second hour we try and do our normal thing here. This is how we started off. We do the FEMA National Watch Center's daily operation briefing. This was presented Thursday, July 24th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time to the president. Of course, he gets the secret squirrel stuff. We do not. If you want to send me the secret squirrel stuff, I'd really like to see it. Chris says, and people wonder why the world sees our country as hypocritical. Amen. Agreed, Chris. Agreed. No argument there. National current operations are monitoring. There are no significant incidents or operations ongoing. They are monitoring heavy rainfall, flash flooding in the southern plains to Great Lakes, Guam, and northern Mariana Islands. Excessive heat, we've talked about this for days, lower Mississippi to the northeast, and tropical activity. Well, there's still a couple little lows out there. That one in the Atlantic is just an annoying little bug. We'll take a look at it after a while. Western Pacific, it's still going to be a tropical storm in the Western Pacific. And in the Atlantic, it's just going to be heavy rains and annoying to Florida and the Gulf Coast residents. Our forecast today, the tornadic activity is predicted to be much less severe, but we can see thunderstorms across pretty much a midwestern swipe of the country from New Mexico, Kansas, Missouri, tip of Indiana up there, and possibly some heavy stuff with flash flooding, but no severe storms. But the East Coast can expect the soaker as well as parts of New England. The anticipated precipitation, well, pretty much that same swipe we talked about. It's going to be more centrally located where the heavy rains are, but it'll extend all the way up into Boston later this week. And in Florida, in the Gulf Coast, you guys are just getting another day of heavy rain. We're going to talk about this more in a minute, but we talked about how in Mississippi, it's going to follow the Mississippi right on up to the Great Lakes. Further to the west, as usual, it'll be a little bit warmer than it is to the east, but there'll still be some high temperatures. I think in Death Valley, it got to 105 yesterday. It was triple digits. So we're not going to see any triple digits today, I don't think, but tomorrow, yeah, we could. The fire weather outlook, California and Nevada is the main areas, a little bit of Oregon and Idaho as well, but we're going to keep an eye on that, and we'll talk more about that here in just a minute. Let's see. This is all pretty much nothing's changed since we last talked, so let's go on to the next article. We always do the president's schedule. He has a public schedule they post every day, and they go back and alter it if anything changes. So let's look at yesterday. And if you remember, we talked about he was going to have a meeting, but that was pretty much it. Doesn't appear anything exciting happened. They didn't even call a lid yesterday. Usually they'll call a lid. Why didn't they call a lid? All right. So today it's the typical 9 a.m. in-town pool call time for the media. 3 o'clock in about an hour, he's going to sign more executive orders and congressional bills. In 3:45, he's departing the White House en route to the Federal Reserve for a meeting. 4 o'clock, he'll get there. And then somewhere around 5:10, he will return back to the White House. So he does have a meeting with the Reserve today. Will he fire him? That's the thing. Everybody wants to know. Will he fire him? Does he have the power to fire him? So I go to NBC Washington because, let me make this larger for some reason. I didn't. Because they keep a live update of what's going on in Washington. So it appears the DOJ is going to meet with Janine Maxwell, and Trump is going to visit the Federal Reserve later today. And the man accused of trying to assassinate President Trump represents himself in court today. We'll get more about that tomorrow. But apparently they've ruled he can represent himself. And he's scheduled to stand trial in September, a year after he tried to assassinate the president while playing golf. The judge says that his court-appointed attorneys need to remain in standby. So, all right, there you have the ruling. The Senate committee hearing devolves into a shouting match over the Epstein records. I'm just going to throw this out there, everybody. If you have the left and the right agreeing and shouting at each other, this is a distraction. What it's a distraction for, well, that remains to be seen, but this is nothing more than a distraction. Because there is a judge in Florida has ruled they can't unseal the grand jury. So, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff says U.S. team is leaving Gaza talks. There's a shocker because Israel crossed into Syria's border overnight and, well, continues the war over there. White House says Trump's nominee for office of special counsel is still standing. Let's see. Paul Ingrassi is still under consideration for the role, despite the Senate Homeland Committee removing him from its confirmation hearing panel Tuesday. He's still the nominee and currently serving in the role as White House liaison to the Department of Homeland Security, the White House official said. He added that Ingrassi will spend the next month speaking with senators, and we expect him to be swiftly confirmed. The president has full confidence in him and his ability to lead the Office of Special Counsel. And we talked about this earlier. Trump disputes claim that he wants to interfere with Musk. And the deputy attorney general is meeting with Janine Maxwell. I don't know if it. Apparently, the meeting is expected to last throughout the day. So apparently they're meeting today. GOP Senators Cornyn and Graham call for special counsel to investigate the Obama administration for 2016 election. Senator Lindsey Graham and John Cornyn are calling Attorney General Pam Bondi to appoint special counsel at the Justice Department to investigate the former Obama administration over Russia interference in the 2016 election. The pair of senators said in a statement today that they want a special counsel to investigate the extent to which former President Obama, his staff, and administration officials manipulated the U.S. national security apparatus for a political outcome. They argue without evidence the recent documents released suggest the entire Russian collusion hoax was created by the Obama administration to subvert the will of the American people. Echoing baseless claims made by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, they imply that the administration tried to manufacture what eventually became the 2017 Intelligence Community Report that detailed Russian influence the 2016 election to hurt Hillary Clinton's chances and boost Trump's candidacy. Former President Barack Obama has denied the allegations. Democrats and liberal media have been out to get President Trump since 2016. They said there must be an immediate investigation of what we believe to be unprecedented and unclear abuse of power by the president's administration. Okay. Bondi is facing Democratic calls to testify following the report she told Trump he was in the Epstein files. This is from 11:25 this morning. Trump's personal ties to Epstein are well established, and his name is already known to have been included in the records related to the wealthy financier. Senator Adam Schiff responded to the report by calling on Bondi, the FBI director, and Kash Patel to appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee. The mere inclusion of a person's name in Epstein's file does not imply wrongdoing, and he was known to have been associated with multiple prominent figures, including Trump. Former Biden White House chief of staff will testify behind closed doors today into a committee. The House Oversight Committee will hold a closed-door transcribed interview this morning with former Chief of Staff Ron Klain as part of their investigation into former President Biden's mental fitness and use of the auto pen. So far, several other Biden aides have attended closed-door interviews in the committee as part of this investigation. Former Biden's aides Annie Tomsini and Anthony Bernal pled the fifth in their interviews. Dr. Kevin O'Connor also pled the fifth in his interview to the House Oversight Committee. All right. Let's see. That's pretty much all the today's Washington, D.C. news so far. Stand by. I could change at a moment's notice as far as things go in Washington, D.C. We thank NBC for Washington for having this so that we can relay it to the public. All right, we'll look at the National Weather Service daily briefing, and it's pretty much the same as we talked about earlier. Pretty much from New Mexico up to the Great Lakes, a little swath through the center of the country to the northeast. Can expect some heavy rain and flash flooding. Here in the south, from the Keys all the way up to the Great Lake, we're going to see some spotty rain showers, and it's going to extend all the way over to New England and this side of the Rockies. Maybe some slight precipitation in California, which is kind of rare. So there might be some rainfall in California. Doesn't appear to be heavy, though. And we look at the tornadic index. Well, they say it's pretty much less than 2% at all, so no chances. It will be a slightly windy day. We talked about that with this swath of storms up to the northeast and into Boston area, the New England area. You can expect to see some heavy winds today, and later this evening as it moves throughout. Otherwise, there doesn't appear to be much of a risk at all for hail today, so these storms really don't have the energy. So that's good news. We'll take the rain, but we don't want the storms. All right, we're going to zoom out, and we've already talked about a lot of U.S. weather. Let's talk a little bit about Australia because, well, it's a little cold and windy there, and they're getting some rain coming up through Adelaide all the way up to Alice Springs, a little bit off the western side of Perth and the Gold Coast. But that rain's going to anticipate increase in the precipitation today is going to move across the country in slightly windy, chilly day, but a large portion of the country won't see the rain as it moves through. It'll just be spotty. So let's zoom in here and see what the current radar is for us. And we see down the Gulf Coast, that little storm that made its way up and back over and out into the Atlantic is now moved over the Gulf, or is now moved over Central Florida, is in the Gulf Coast, where it's raining pretty much from Tallahassee over to Houston. Doesn't appear to be heavy rains at this time, but up in New England, up in Vermont and Maine, they are getting some rain showers right now. And as far as the center of the country, we zoom in and we see that Omaha, Topeka, Lincoln, and Des Moines are getting a little bit of spotty rain showers. We'll look at weather warnings. This comes to us from Weather Warn. You can go check out their site. It's a great site to use So we have a special weather statement in New Mexico, a tropical storm watch. Let's zoom in on this. The tropical storm watch, that's going to be for Guam. Yeah, all right. So we have a tropical storm watch in Guam, if you're listening to us from Guam. And that comes with also special marine and small craft advisories. Louisiana has issued a special weather statement from Baton Rouge, probably for heavy rains that'll be moving throughout. This is a Doppler indicated storm near Livingston, or 12 miles east, is moving to the southwest at 30, wind gusts up to 50. So there's that little storm we talked about down the Gulf of America. And the heat advisory, well, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, you're all going to have a heat warning. Michigan, Wyoming, Pennsylvania as well. You can anticipate that continuing throughout the day. In fact, they're saying in Michigan, we'll talk about this in a little bit, an extreme air quality warning. That's probably because of the smoke from the Canadian wildfires. And there's also in Vermont a heat advisory. No severe weather at the moment to report on, which is good news. Let's look at the lightning just to make sure, because the storm is kind of active down in the Gulf of America. We do have one we'll look at first. This is up in Michigan. It's crossing into the Canadian border up around, where is that, Manitoba? Sudbury up along the Michigan border with Canada. That storm has a little bit of activity as it moves to the northeast into Canada. Lots of electrical activity with it. It's going towards Sudbury at the moment. We'll zoom down and see there's a small storm cell in Augusta on the Georgia, South Carolina border. And down in Jacksonville, a small storm. Fort Pierce, you have a small storm right now, but the biggest storm right now is in the Gulf of America, going up the Baton Rouge corridor of, what is that, I-10? Yeah, it's over around near I-10 below Shreveport. That storm's going to be coming in inland slightly, but most of the electrical activity is right now. It's just going to be focused out into the bay, where it's going to be tremendous activity for people working in the area. Baton Rouge, you have a small cell there, but it's not as intense as we anticipated. Let's see if there's any power outages reported with this. Let me refresh this. And we see that the most power outages currently are from Michigan. They're reporting 10,504 without power. And that is right there at the little corner of the Canadian border with Michigan. So that's where we see the power outages there. Don't anticipate we're going to see many more down in the south because of this storm. Let's look at some weather warnings on a map. Let's see what we got. Of course, this heat is really going to continue from the Gulf of America up through, zoomed out too far, up through to the Great Lakes. That's the big news, weather news of the day. We can see that today it's really saturating Arkansas, Tennessee area coming up the Mississippi is where the heavy heat is, but that's going all the way up into Michigan, the Great Lakes. So that heat is going to continue throughout the day with the spotty showers, and it is going to be hot. Don't worry, here in Georgia and Alabama and the Carolinas, we've had a slight break from this. Don't worry, next week when the little Canadian front comes through, it's going to push all this right back down to us. So we'll get the corn sweat rain. There are several special weather statements down around Baton Rouge reference this storm, but I don't see any other types of warnings or watches. And I don't see any warnings or watches for any of these storms currently in the lower 48. All right. We'll check Florida just one last time to make sure. No, I don't see anything down there. Even though that storm right off Lake Okeechobee has got a little bit of punch to it, but I don't see any warnings with it. So, all right, that's good news. I don't think we have any, we don't have anything special for Australia to worry about. Currently, it is raining in South Australia with that little front associated off of the southern border. So the spotty rains are going to continue pretty much up the center of the country today, spotty as they are. Let's look at current temperatures. Talked about Death Valley yesterday was triple digits. Right now, it looks like Phoenix is the top scorer at 99 degrees. Yeah, that's pretty hot. Looks like up in Seattle, it's 64, so they get the low, it looks like. All the way up into Burlington, Vermont, 91 degrees. New York City, 85, 88 in Washington, D.C. Atlanta, 87. Down in Tampa, it's 92. Down in Key West, it's in the upper 80s. 83 in New Orleans. And we see that heat moving up. It's 92 in Jackson, 93 in Memphis, 94 in St. Louis, 92 in Chicago. So we see all that heat pushed off to the west. Tulsa, you are 92 degrees right now. Dallas, 95. Odessa, 95. So Texas, another warm day for you. Let's go down to our friends in Australia and see what the current temperatures are. And currently it looks kind of cool as compared to what we have. It's in the 70s on the East Coast. Cairns is 71. And Brisbane is 44. Sydney, 46. Melbourne, 45. Adelaide, 48. Perth, 43. Canberra is 53. Port Hedland is 59. Broome, 73. Darwin, 76. Alex Springs, you're looking at 61 degrees. All those are in degrees. Sorry, my friends, I don't have the converter on. All right, we will go and look. This is the National Weather Service's heat warning. So you can, like I said, you're going to hear about this heat dome. And we talked about this for the past several days. It is coming pretty much from the Gulf of America, following the Mississippi up into the Great Lakes. The tip of it is extending over a little bit to the east, but most of the heaviest heat, warmest, toughest, I don't know, whatever word you want to put with, whatever pronoun you want to put with it, is to the west. It does not mean that places like Tennessee, Kentucky, or parts of Ohio or Wisconsin or Illinois are going to get a break. It just means that to the west side of this heat dome, it's going to be hotter. So pretty much if you look at the map and go from the Great Lakes down to the south, down by Texas, that heat is going to be unbearable. It's all going to be a code red day. And code red means it affects anyone without cooling or hydration or with proper health systems in place. So in other words, you need to hydrate. If you're out in the sun, you need to wear sunscreen. You need to come inside and cool yourself frequently. And if you feel overwhelmed, you need to seek medical help if you stop sweating or you feel like it's going to overcome you. So make sure to hydrate, drink plenty of water. This is going to be with us for a couple days, folks. And it's going to be in the south of the state's lower 48 next week. So next week may even see triple digits for the south from the reports I'm hearing. So, all right, we talk about all the rains, but they're still concerned about some drought areas, mainly along the border, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California. There is a little bit up in the Rockies, up into the northwest, up in the Sierra Nevadas. Most of the East Coast, all the way pretty much, well, almost to the Great Divide there at the Rockies, is pretty much normal. You see it is highlighted in yellow in some areas, and this is more due to population. If you zoom in, if you zoom in on a map, let's just zoom in on Georgia, which is one I'm familiar with. We see that the swath is below the northeast section of the Smoky Mountains, and it's abnormally dry. But that doesn't mean that it's a record drought. What it means is the population to water supply. So if you look around Metro Atlanta, South Atlanta, down here in Fayette County, in Pike County, they're showing, and even Clayton County, they're even showing it to be drought areas, abnormally dry, but that's just based on population. Doesn't mean that it hasn't rained. It just means that due to population, the amount of water per individual is less. So if you look down in Florida, you'll see, here we go, zoom in on Florida. We'll see down in Miami and Broward counties, we see that it's extreme in Miami-Dade. Mainly this is based off the population. It doesn't mean it hasn't rained there. It just means that they don't have enough water per person, which I find is an interesting way of measuring that, but that's the way they do it. Let's check messages, make sure there's nothing crazy here. Okay, we're talking about the CBS TV show Big Brother. And while we do this, let's zoom out and take a little moment to relax and chill. If you follow us on Para Our Normal Guys or any of our YouTube affiliates, you know that we have a daily map of winds. It shows the big, beautiful, blue, perfect globe. Chris, you need to give me some more words to describe it. In the AI version of what the winds are. And as we can see, the winds are currently off of the Atlantic coast of the United States, pushing off to the east over towards Bermuda and coming out of the Alaskan front down into California on the other side of the country. Let's see. So we'll go to some breaking news here right now. Let me see if I can find it. Let me open a new tab. And it appears we have a fourth. So does that mean that in the next several days, there'll be two more? Chuck Mangione. He is known for, what is the song? Famed trumpeter. Oh, what is his song? I love that one song. Let's pull up the news story on him. Let's see. Let's get the most recent one. USA Today, Chuck Mangione, whose song found new life in King of the Hill. Continue the site. Just leave it alone. Chuck Mangione, whose songs found new life at King of the Hill, is dead at 84. Chuck Mangione, a prolific composer and musician who released 30 albums in his career, died July 22nd, according to a statement from his family. He was 84. Chuck Mangione family is deeply saddened to share that Chuck passed away peacefully in his sleep in his home in Rochester, New York, on 22nd July 2025, 2 days ago. The statement shared July 24th with the Rochester, New York Democrat and Chronicle, part of the USA Today network. It read, as a celebrated composer and virtuoso, flugelhorn and trumpet player, I know I butchered that one, Mangione began taking lessons at age 8 and played in a jazz combo with his pianist brother, Gap, during his high school years. He and Gap were both heavily inspired by Dizzy Gillespie. Oh, wow. What a name. A family friend and jazz great. Yes, he was, whom their father adored. Gillespie would join the Mangiones for dinner whenever he was in town and become one of his biggest influencers. Gillespie was so impressed by teenage Mangione's musical prowess that he gave him one of his trademark upswept trumpets. Awesome. Mangione went on to study at the Eastman School of Music, graduating in 1963 with a bachelor's degree in music education, later returning to teach and direct the school's jazz ensemble. That's great. I didn't know that. He then parlayed a musical upbringing into a successful solo career, selling millions of records, receiving numerous awards, including 2 Grammys in 1977 for Best Instrumental Composition, Bolivia, and in 1979 for his pop performance, The Children of Sanchez. The latter, a soundtrack for the movie of the same name, also won a Golden Globe. His 1977 hit single, Feels So Good, that's the one I recall, off an album of the same name, reached number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. The album peaked at number 2 on the Billboard album chart in 1978, bested only by, oh my goodness, get out your bell-bottom pants, Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Feels So Good also became an ongoing bit in the TV animated show King of the Hill, where it frequently referenced with Mangione himself nabbing a reoccurring voice acting role. Mangione also composed Give It All You Got, the theme song for the 1980 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid, and performed it during the closing ceremonies to an audience of several 100 million viewers. Chuck's love affair with music has been characterized by his boundless energy, unabashed enthusiasm, and pure joy that radiated from the stage. His family statement reads, his appreciation for his loyal worldwide fans was genuine as evidenced by how often he would sit at the edge of the stage after a concert for however long it took to sign autographs for the fans who stayed to meet with him and the band. The family also noted that he worked to inspire a new generation of musicians by using high school bands as his orchestra or scheduling children's matinee concerts where kids in the audience would be invited to bring their instrument and join him on stage. Even before his death, Mangione's wide-ranging music career was memorialized in American Song Rock. In 2009, he donated a selection of his music memorabilia to the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. Among the items, his signature brown felt hat, scores to his most important works, photos, albums, and even an animation cell from King of the Hill. Chuck Mangione passed away on the 22nd at the age of 84. Chuck Mangione is going to be remembered as a trumpeter who passed away at 84 years. Goodness. Thank you for the news tip there, Chris. I appreciate that. So Chuck Mangione. So technically, didn't Chuck pass away before Hulk? So does that mean we've reset and the number now is going to be, because they say they die in threes, so now we have 4. So there's going to be 2 more. Is there 2 more out there we don't know about? All right, we'll return to our big blue animated globe. Let's go down to our friends in Australia and take a look at their wind conditions. Oh, it looks like a windy day straight up the continent there. A little front off of the southwestern side of the country is really spinning up and bringing it in and causing winds to be pulled from the east and the west from the north. And so it's going to be a windy day in Australia today. Brisk winter day in Australia. All right, let's look at the current air quality conditions. This is of the lower 48 of the United States. Let me zoom out slightly. We'll see up here, most of this in Canada is due to the smoke and extends down into Minnesota. Michigan is going to see some of it too later today. But right now, the worst air quality is Fargo. Where's that? Fargo, North Dakota, extending over to the Great Lakes, and Duluth, almost to Minneapolis, is where the worst air quality is for the day. Anticipate as that smoke moves through the day, it's only going to get worse. Let's zoom out and see if there's any other air quality alerts. No, I don't see any. Let's go to the smoke and fire map. So we can see Canada is covered up with fires, and so is Alaska. Most of the fires for us are on the west coast. The smoke is going to be pushed to the north, really not affecting anybody more than the Dakotas, Minnesota, and the tip of Wisconsin up there. So that's going to be where your air quality is the worst. Zoom out a little bit. We don't see anything else. We'll hop over to NASA's with the U.S. Forestry Service and look at their fire maps. We see there are several fires burning to the west of the Rockies, but this is actually went down from yesterday. If you remember yesterday, from the west to the ocean, it was red and orange. Excuse me. All right. All these little red dots do not indicate an actual fire, just the satellite has recorded something that could be a fire. Down here in, where is this? 4,000 acres in, what is the name of it? North Marsh, which is, it's not too far from Daytona Beach. The Ocala National Forest. That's the only forest fire on the east side of the country. And I'm going to guess that might be well, it's not contained, so it's 0% contained. So we'll keep an eye on that. And let's zoom out. I don't believe we'll have any reports for any other fires anywhere else because this is a U.S. forestry map. Let's look at the animated view of, close. Look at an animated view of the air quality around the world. As we talked about in Canada, extreme air quality pretty much for most of Canada. That smoke's not pushing down really hard What we have today is the dust from the Sierra has come across. It's entered the Gulf of America, and it's going to continue up and out through New England, Nova Scotia area towards Greenland, believe it or not. Yes, it's made it that far. There's good news and bad news coming up the Mississippi. It will lessen the likelihood of any storms developing because it's harder to conduct the electricity in the storm in the dust. So in the Atlantic, that's going to be a break for us with all that dust coming off the Sierra. We look down into Australia, excuse me, got a bug in my throat or something. I don't know. We talked about the winds earlier. Well, the fires are to the north in the center part of the continent. So as that front is coming in and it's pulling the winds down from the north and the northwest, we see that that's pulling all the smoke down and out through the south. So with your wind, you will have some smoke conditions today in Australia. All right, I'm going to refresh this. Good Lord. This is the latest significant earthquakes. It says 5 hours, 26 minutes ago, 5.5 in Indonesia, 3.3 in Turkey, 9 hours before that. I don't see any in the States reported in the past 24 hours. Let's go over here to the visual map and see the most recent one. 2.5 explosion in Bend, Oregon. It says it caused an explosion. That's kind of an odd term. Wonder why it was called an explosion. We'll have to get more data on that. 2.5 on the Richter scale. Bend, Oregon at 2.5. All right, interesting. Down in Texas, what do we have down there? 3.0. And that was reported overnight. Down in El Paso, they had a small one of, bring it up here, 2.5. And down on the border, a 3.6 in Mexico. Those are the most recent for the U.S., except for we look at here in Alaska. There's always some activity up here. And a 2.9 at the Air Force Base in Alaska. Brenda says 2.5 isn't bad. Brenda, do you often experience earthquakes in your part of the world there? I'm not too accustomed to them being into the south. As I've only had minor ones. I think 2.5 is probably the most I've ever felt. She says 5 or higher is higher. Do they usually have those in Texas? How often do they have them? We'll jump and look. Not only is this the earthquakes, it's the volcanoes. And we talked about this earlier in the Bend, Oregon, or Bend area up here of off the coast of Oregon, extending up into Alaska. You see all the volcanic activity. The Spur volcano is still active. We look down in South America, and the Pele volcano is still active. And up in Iceland, they have some volcanic activity, but that's the most recent. Oh, she's talking about 5.0s when she lived in California. Okay, gotcha. I was going to say, I didn't think Texas had too many big ones, or I won't call them big, but that were measurable. Let's look at the disaster alert map. I wanted to do this the other day because we talked a little bit about this. This tropical cyclone, Croatia, is just kind of steaming along out there off of the coast of Guam. It's kind of be an aggravation. It's not going to turn into anything more than just a depression, but it's just going to be a little pest to Guam over the next couple days. Coming onto the mainland from Taiwan, you have they call them a typhoon there, I believe. Yeah. And it's going to be going down, moving down into causing problems in the Philippines with heavy rain. So what was this? I saw a volcano up here. That was in South Korea. Landslides in South Korea, and extreme heat in South Korea, as well as they've had flooding in South Korea. So Korea's had plenty of rains. Brenda says she sleeps through the small ones. Okay. Fair enough. those are the two cyclones I wanted to talk about because I mentioned them the other day, and they're kind of, the one off of Guam is just going to be a pest with lots of rain. The other one coming into the Philippines, and the other one, actually, there's three, will be making its way over towards the mainland. It's got to have a little bit more of an impact, but none of them appear to be larger than something more than just a nuisance. Let's see here. Wildfire in California. We talked about the fires down there. Flooding in the Rio Grande, down in Florida. No, the Cuba is close enough. Flooding. Extreme heat in the mid and southwestern section of the country. Yeah, we talked about that. And we'll zoom in a little bit up here, but most of this should be squalls in Ontario from that Sudbury. I stayed in Sudbury a time or two for just heavy rains and squalls throughout the area. Let's go down to Australia and see if there's anything to report down there. Oh, goodness. So we're looking at some flooding into Gawler, South Australia, with severe weather and some high winds off of Port Augusta in South Australia. And I zoomed out too far. In Belia, Queensland, severe weather is occurring, but that was reported 18 hours ago. All right. Precipitation, rain, and wildfires up towards the east of Bertram, the coast. You're looking at over on the Gold Coast, some winds, but that's really been dissipating over the past couple days. So, all right, let's go to the event list. I don't want to run out of time today like we have in past days, but we've had some breaking news each day. So, all right, so we're going to look at biological. We talked about yesterday, Hollywood Beach, Florida. The man was seriously injured after a shark attack. There's been several of them. The Slovenia sheep farm disease. Nigeria has had a problem with chlorea, and it has claimed 13 lives. And let's see here. That is in India, and it is also an epidemic, but they don't give a number or a name. Hey, KG, welcome. We're glad you're here. A little late, but we're glad you're here nonetheless. Let's see. West Nile has been confirmed in Colorado. All right. Bangladesh has 400 new dengue cases with 3 more deaths. And Cambodia reports the 13th case of H5N1 flu this year. In India, they have 2 dead and hospitalized over diarrhea. That's must be the name of a bug. Let's see. Nothing to report there. Polish soldiers fire shots at migrants crossing the Poland-Belarus border. Seems like a smart thing to do. You should shoot at people crossing your border. Australia, a man shot, stabbed, and hit with a hammer in a horror home invasion. Okay. 3 officers injured in Ohio. We talked about that. 2 dead, 2 wounded in Northern Ireland in a shooting in the UK. And Jamaican police kill 5 as the department criticized for surge in fatal shootings. All right. We're going to skip the war sections because, well, we know Syria and Russia and all those places, all the wars are going off. Toxic algae is lingering off of the south coast of Australia, killing marine life. In Syria, unidentified explosion rocks an area causing casualties. No numbers. We've talked about fires. And let's see. We talked about earthquakes. And we talked about volcanic activity, flash flooding. We talked about heavy rains in areas of the country. United States, a blown power transformer causes power outage for a second day in a row at Liberty County Courthouse. Oh, yeah, we had coming on to the air, Yahoo was down and AOL were both down in what appeared to be cyber attacks. They may be up now. There was a press release sent out about that. Russian Federation, they found burning debris after a passenger plane has gone missing off of the radar. I think there was 48 aboard in another story I read about it. And we talked about the cyclones in the Philippine Sea and the South Sea in Japan and Vietnam. And we've talked about drought in the United States. We haven't talked about other places in the world. Hail. And the last hail reported was in Nebraska. And it was also, let's see, it was last reported in Nebraska, Buffalo, Nebraska County. All right. Persistent thick fog. I haven't seen that in a while. From the Russian Federation. Interesting. Persistent thick fog. 7 reports of it overnight. All right. And 1 confirmed dead, 4 injured as typhoons have hit Vietnam. And Antarctica. There's some type of storm there, but no injuries are reported. I'm assuming it's going to be a significant wind and would it be snow up there, I guess? Storm. Let's look at the New England Fire News and just see over the last 24 hours if there's any events that jump out at us. This is compiled by volunteers that notify other volunteers of situations that are ongoing. So we had a vehicle versus a building in Lynn, Massachusetts. Bridgeport, Connecticut has had a small fire in a wood frame dwelling. And let's see, second alarm for a fire in Showcase Cinemas, North Attleboro, Mass. And let's see, car into a pole with entrapment. Everybody's going to work in New Jersey. And a second alarm in Salisbury, Pennsylvania for a structure fire with water problems. All right. And it appears to be most of the large fires. Barricaded suspect overnight in New York and Brooklyn. Looks like it was the same one. And that's about it for the last 24 hours. It looks like anything major. You can go to the New England Fire News and look at the reports. And if you want, you can even send in your reports to them. You can join and send them. It's a good source to keep people updated on what's going on in your neck of the woods. Oh, wrong button. All right, this is live crime maps. USALiveMap.com talks about what's going on in certain areas. This is also what's been reported on X and compiled by volunteers. So you may see incidents, whereas you may not see incidents. So don't take it if you don't see something that didn't happen. Just take it just wasn't reported. Body was recovered Thursday morning in a submerged SUV in a canal in West Broward County. All right, and we jump over on the other side of the coast. A homicide investigation in Tampa. They shared the community. They can help find the person responsible. All right, go up here to 1 dead overnight in an upstate. Well, 1 dead and over hit and run in upstate. Okay, that's talking about, it's right there at the Georgia-Carolina border. We'll go down here to Georgia, and there's always good for some violence. 19-year-old man was shot during a fight at a skate park. Shocker. All right, and what's this one here? This is out in my old neck of the woods. Deputy and constables are in a scene of a vehicle accident. Okay. Roof collapses during an apartment fire in DeKalb County. Oh, that's my old stomping grounds. DeKalb County, Georgia. See what this up here in New York. Suffolk County police officer was shot this morning in North Bay Shore. You're on the scene where a body was found Wednesday. That was 5 hours ago. Okay, we didn't have that one. And second alarm in Boston. That was 4 hours ago. Let's go back down here and see. New York has always got stuff going on. Bronx is garage fire 4 hours ago. And Manhattan, all hands went to work on 133rd Street in Lenox, a 5-story tenement. And this one here, Queens, all hands, which means it's working. A basement fire. All right. Did we hit that one? Yeah. Suffolk County coroner was shot this morning in North Bay on the scene of where a body was being found Wednesday. So that's pretty good. Pretty wild. Self-proclaimed fortune teller accused of scamming woman out of thousands of dollars on Long Island. Oh, let's just bring this up for fun, for giggles. Let's see. Self-proclaimed. Oh, it doesn't have the source. Where's the source story? It doesn't say. Self-proclaimed fortune teller accused of scamming woman out of thousands of dollars in Long Island. Why do people believe these things? These people can't predict the future no more than they can tell you what's going to happen tomorrow by the news media. Oh, absolutely. More is told Brenda. She says, I think more happens than where she lives than reported. Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of the stuff doesn't go, like, for instance, an incident in Knoxville occurred that should have been reported, but it was hidden by the media. So it happens. Woman was killed in Louisville County down by you, Brenda. That's in South Dallas. After a pursuit, she pulled out a handgun and she was therefore terminated. Fort Worth, one dead, according to a Hamilton City police officer involved in a shooting. So y'all been shooting them up down there. Memphis, they're always good for some violence. Let's see. Man dead after shooting in medical district. Police stay. All right, we'll jump up here. What is this? Police have confirmed that both the victim and the suspect have died from the gunshot wounds in a domestic. That looks like in Indianapolis. Officers on the scene of incident, 900 block of West 32nd. It was an officer-involved shooting. No officers injured. There seems to be a lot of officers discharging their firearms in the past 24 hours. And let's see here. That may be a normal thing. We just don't know it. An accident with injury. Chicago. What happened up here? Male shot multiple times in critical care. No further information. 2 shot. One male 18. The back of the head. DOA. A boy 16. The left cheek. Chicago crime scene or on scene looking for evidence. 3 offenders, 2 males, 1 female. They attempted to flee in an Uber. Why would you attempt to flee in an Uber? It seems like a horrible idea. You call in advance and say, hey, I'm going to need you to come out here. Well, that's true, Brenda. She says, look what happens when they have lunch. True. No, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be. Don't take it that I don't think the police officers aren't justified in their use of force. If they felt their life was in danger, then they should use the appropriate amount of force necessary to eliminate the problem. All right. Los Angeles fire 4 hours ago or on the scene of a fire. No, I'm sorry. Broadway in Manchester, a jumper. All right. So they probably got interstate shut down around that. What is this? A burglary suspect left 3 males driving a white SUV that was parked in front. They were wearing face masks, dark clothes, and were in the backyard and jumped over the neighbor's fence. That was 15 hours ago. All right. This is going to be a stabbing. MLK in Alameda. Multiple calls of a person stabbed 12 hours ago. No further information. Let's go up the coast a little bit and see Portland. Male shot in the back on Roosevelt. No, that's not it. Why did it do that? That's not that one. Which case is it highlighting? Police, 1 killed, 2 hurt after a man breaks into multiple Vancouver homes with a gun. Well, seems like a bad idea to break into a house with a gun with people inside of it, but hey. King County deputies are investigating homicide after a deadly shooting overnight in Burien. All right. Seattle, 900 block of West 20th. Fire is under control. Secondary search. All impacted buildings are clear. 1 firefighter was treated for minor injuries. They are reducing the response. The investigation is ongoing. Let's see. All right, we will leave it at that. I don't think there's other things going on. As you can see, you can pull it out and see what areas in what regions. You can even select. Let's see here. Does it have Australia? Can I select Australia? Like you can select Texas all on its own. Can select Europe. And let's just select world and see what happens. Oh no, that didn't give me what I wanted. No, all right, well, let's select Korea, Balkans, Russia, Kashmir, Libya. I don't see anywhere where it allows me to select Europe, Russia, Ireland, Spain. No, it doesn't give me the opportunity to select Australia. That's kind of odd. Am I missing it? Well, you can go to Live Map and see if you can find anything, but I don't see anything for Australia where you can look and see things that were reported. Everywhere else it looks like it, but it doesn't look like they have this services Australia where they report news incidents. So unless I'm wrong, so if I'm wrong, please correct me. Please shoot me a message. Email me, sportcat@protonmail.com. Let's go check out what's going on in the world of aviation. Brenda says I felt like that always going home. All right. I don't know what she's talking about, but all right then. Let's see. Let's just pull out because there's thousands of aircraft up in the air. And it looks like there's lots of military aircraft. Let's just see if we can zoom in on a few. We got just a few minutes left here. See if there's anything interesting. This one is a U.S. cargo Globemaster, and it looks like it's coming from probably Germany. It's coming from way over here in Europe, and yes, in Germany. So it's probably bringing troops home or rotating troops home, if I had to guess. And, well, this fella here is a Globemaster, and it's not really showing him doing much. So let's see what this fella is here. This one is a Globemaster as well, but it just doesn't really show much of what's going on. Sometimes they'll show what they're doing, sometimes they won't. So you can't always jump. I'm not going to zoom in a lot because if you want to, you can go do it on your own. But a lot of these areas along the East Coast, down along the Gulf of America and the border are ongoing ICE operations. And I'm not going to zoom in and give the bad guys any chance. Not that any bad guys listen to me, but any chance to see what's going on. So there is that. We can jump over to Europe and see there's quite a bit of military aircraft. Let's see. That's a Russian aircraft. It doesn't really show where it's coming or going to. I don't see any down in Australia, but Europe sure is hopping. So it's an Indian airliner that comes out of London. We have several helicopters up. It doesn't really, it doesn't say much of what's going on with them. I don't see any fighter jets activity, which is kind of unusual. That's a dignitary right there coming out of, where is it coming out of? Malta? I'm not sure. There's a dignitary fly. He's flying around. Oh, that's probably an agency boy off of the coast of, I don't know what country that is. Sorry, my geography's horrible. That's probably an agency plane down there flying some type of mission off the coast of France. Let's see. More helicopters. That's an aeromedical. All right. You see there's not a whole lot of military activity today. So that's good news and bad news, I guess. All right, let's jump here. Last thing, one of the last things we'll do here, look and see if there's any special aviation considerations. We see the ones around DC, which are normal. Don't see any new ones popped up. What do we have down here in El Paso? And airspace special use. All right, so there's something going on down in El Paso. Looks like right on the border. That may be due to border operations while they have that up. Go up here to Alaska and see if they have anything crazy up. That doesn't look too bad. Just looks like a little bit of special use airspace. That's along the Yukon-Alaska border, so doesn't appear to be much up there. I don't think, I can't really give you anything about flying and visualizing it with Australia on any of the websites I have access to. We talked about all the planes. Well, this is all of the naval vessels in the world underway are, what do they call it? Not underway. They're parked. They're idle. And you can look and see. This comes to us from marinetraffic.com. It even goes into the sport boats, even inland. You can see vessels going up and down the Mississippi. We see that all the Panama Canal is very active. And we see that over here, off of the oil coast, it's very active as well. And if you move over from the west to the east, you see that the movement of goods is good. Your Temu orders are still coming through. So let's see, there's many balloons up right now, whether they're NOAA aircraft for weather or whether they're hobbyists, but there's multiple balloons up over the U.S., so you can come investigate that at soundhub.org and see. Looks like the lower 48 has several. We'll jump down to Australia. I didn't see any down there. No, you have one up, but it's no longer up. It's down. Last but not least, we'll look at Bitdefender. This is the current cyber threat real-time map. It shows where red are attacks, yellow are infections, white are spam. And as usual, it looks as though the center of the country is getting hammered. And from there, it's being moved to the west and to the east. Multiple spams. So if you see anything unusual in your email box, do not click on it. I guess for you old people, Brenda, do not click on anything you're not expecting. So, all right. Well, it's almost time for me to get out of here, but I want to plug tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern. We have CBS Big Brother reality TV show, season 27. Harley and I are going to talk about the live show. I'm going to go back and watch last night's show because we were live doing the paranormal show. So I missed it. So I'll go watch the taped episode that was last night, tonight's live eviction episode, and then they'll start the new head of house competition. So tonight, CBS Big Brother season 27, they will evict their second person of the season. We will be live talking about it at 10 p.m. Eastern for probably about an hour. We will be live on Dare Media Radio in Australia if you want to tune in there. And we will be live on Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, and their affiliates. So you can check us out there. I encourage you, and I really need you because we're trying to get monetized. We've got the hours. We just need the people. If we can get you to come over to the YouTube channel, the Para R Normal, 3 different words, Para R-O-R, Normal Guys, G-U-Y-Z, and you can find us on YouTube, or you can just search out the Sportcat shows. Find the Para R Normal Guys. I need you to come over. I need you to hit subscribe. Of course, I would like for you to hit that thumbs up button so that it helps spread the show around YouTube and gets it to other viewers and content creators so that you can see, or so that we can be seen on a larger scale. But we really do need you to share this with your friends. Try and get people to come over and watch. Join the chat. We usually have a great live chat with Chris, Brenda, Wendell, KG. All kinds of people are usually in the chat. Denise, let's not forget her. She's usually in there. So we have a lively chat. Sometimes they get on me and keep me straight. Other times they give me information. And one last thing before we go, if you want to send me a story, you can either go on YouTube and find the Sportcat Daily Gazette group and join there and send it to the group, or you can send it to me directly. But if you want to send me an email, sportcat@protonmail.com. That's sportcat@protonmail.com. You can send me something. I'm going to turn Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, and Dare Media back over to the regular programming. I appreciate everybody for tuning in and checking this out. Please come tonight and watch or listen to our Big Brother show. We will see you tomorrow, if you're only watching this, at 1 o'clock Eastern, midnight, 3 a.m. in Australia. If I can get the music to play. And play. Oh.